Josh. Thanks so much for joining me here on Dying to Live.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I can't wait to see where we go.
I know, me too. That is the joy of this kind of a chat is we just never know. So I guess maybe to give us a little bit of a foundation, I'm really interested in understanding just what it was like for you as an empathic human to grow up in a culture and a world that doesn't often embrace our empathic nature to its fullest.
Well, it was quite difficult actually growing up as a child for me because there were a lot of things that I would see, feel, and hear that I was not aware was happening, but it was happening kind of experience. So when I was like, 9 and 10 and probably earlier in my life, I would be scared of going down to the basement, scared to go outside in the dark, to take the garbage out. These kinds of simple things that you would do. It would like literally freak me out, and I would tell my parents about it, and they didn't get it. Like when I was in bed and I would see things, I would come out of bed and say, "Hey, there's something here," and they would come in. They would turn on the light. They would go in the closet. They do all these things, and they'd say, "See, nothing's there." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but when you leave, it's not going to be the same." So they think that I was scared of the dark. I wasn't scared of the dark. I was scared of what I was seeing in the dark and then hearing and then feeling, because I could feel these beings and all these the presences of what I was seeing was really kind of difficult to take as a very young child and not really understanding what it was. And nobody in my family had any understanding of this kind of thing. At least it was something like, we don't talk about that. So
Yeah.
I didn't have any recourse or any help to deal with these emotions and feelings. I remember when I was a child, there was one day that I was just standing in the middle of my room crying. And my mother said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, I don't know.
Oh,
I honestly don't know.
overloaded.
Huh?
Overloaded.
Yes, I was overloaded. I was probably being spoken to by lots of beings and ghosts and people on the other side, and I didn't know it. And it was just all freaking me out. So eventually, I turned it off
Hmm.
and I stopped. Well, not completely stopped experiencing it, but it was less. I kept a nightlight on probably until I was way in my teens,
Hmm.
because it made it, because it stopped those. The darker the room got, the more easy it was for me to see through the veil, and I would be able to see all this stuff. And so I just kept a nightlight on, and it solved the problem for many years. But I didn't know that was empathic. I just thought something crazy was going on in my house. And there were things that were crazy in my house. I had entities. I didn't know it at the time. And there were lots of entities that I lived with my entire childhood. So as I got older and started to learn about this and saying, wow, I'm an empath. That's what's going on. It's not that there's, people calling my name in the basement, which happened to me frequently. And yes, that was happening, but it was because I can actually hear them. And so it was a very interesting childhood, to say the least, without any support. Because what do you say? I see ghosts, I hear ghosts, or I hear things that other people aren't hearing. My parents were so loving and caring, but they didn't know anything about that, so they wouldn't have been able to help me even if they understood what I was going through.
So there was not anybody else then in your family who you often hear, oh well, my grandmother had these experiences, and we might have someone that we identify with in the family, but that wasn't happening for you.
No, that wasn't happening for me at all. I just think it wasn't something that was really talked about. And I wasn't sure what it was. I just heard voices. I didn't necessarily tell my parents all the time. Once or twice with the closet thing, something's in my closet and they're like, nothing's there. I would see things through the TV even, and then they would say, well, I can't see it. So I realized I was the only one that was able to see these things, hear these things, and feel these things. So I stopped asking.
Mhm.
And so I just dealt with it, or ran upstairs if I was in the basement and I heard someone call my name, or or
Yeah.
that kind of thing. It was definitely very scary. So there was a lot of fear in my life as a child, especially when I was alone.
And do you mind just explaining for anyone who might not be as familiar how do we define what an empath is?
Well, that's a really great question because I think that people get very confused about what an empath is when they're not one. And they think that someone is just a person who cares a lot or is overcaring or, um, feels people's emotions and really connects with that and is affected by other people's emotions. And it's not really that at all.
Mhm.
It's that somebody who's an empath has the ability to connect at many levels in the world so they can feel what the world like what's happening in the world on a global level.
Mhm.
They can experience what's happening on the other side, so to speak.
Mhm.
When we pass, they can experience other things in the spirit world. There's lots of different things in the spirit world other than people passing,
Mhm.
and lots of energies. There's the ability to sense entities. There's the ability to sense other people's emotions. The thing is that an empath doesn't just sense these things, but they take them on and see them from their perspective. The problem with that is when there's so much input coming in, and they feel all this stuff, and they're taking it on from a very in the moment, in the situation kind of feeling it.
Mhm.
Then it becomes not only overwhelming but fearful and um, overload. Overload is really big, and so a lot of times an empath, especially somebody who either doesn't know they're an empath or they're new to being new to knowing that they're an empath,
Mhm.
they don't know how to use their empathic powers. They don't understand how to separate themselves from these things. They don't understand how to turn it off if they decide this is not the time I want to deal with this. I'll deal with this at another time, or I don't want to deal with it at all. We do have a choice as an empath to feel it and sense it. But most empaths don't realize that we have that choice because they don't know where the knob is to turn it off. So,
Yeah. I mean, you experienced that. Well, you turned it off for yourself, and I want to know,
out
how
of
you
fear,
did that.
out
Out
of
of fear.
fear, when I was a child, I turned it off out of fear. Today, I turn it on and off by my choosing. So it's a very different experience from when I was a child. I have power today. I was victim as a child, like total victim.
Yeah, I had the same experience. And by the way, I'm having right now some really big tingles here talking to you.
Oh,
So
cool.
this is very cool. Um, that's usually the indication of right pathness and some depth of discovery. So we should talk about that.
Okay.
But when I was a kid, I turned it off too sometime in my teens, and it's been coming online little by little by little, and the latest is audio sensory depth. Only I don't know how to do it and regulate it well, so often a voice will come in very loudly and then scare the absolute crap out of me.
Yep.
And I'm not scared of the entity, because generally there's not anything to be scared of, but it does scare me audibly. And so, yeah, we should talk more about that. I'm really interested in how you kind of harness this and use it for your own good and power rather than be controlled by it.
Yeah, because there was definitely times when it opened up again. Like I don't know how many years ago, it was maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. It started to open up again. Um, Actually, it probably opened up well before that, actually, but 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, I started to understand that I could have some control over it.
Hmm.
So I was able to do different things with it, but I wasn't quite sure that I was an empath fully yet. I kind of thought, but I wasn't sure. Then I realized about 6 years ago that I was an empath, and I said, "Oh, well, now it all comes clear. I get it." So then I started to discover how can I how can I play with this? Because I started to play with it, knowing what was safe and what wasn't safe, because I already had some understandings of boundaries. I had some understandings of how to be safe in the spirit world, which is and also in our world through
Hmm.
energy. So energy safeness,
Hmm.
because I know that a lot of people utilize energy and they don't know how to utilize it correctly, and then they actually get themselves into some spiritual trouble, so to speak.
Yeah.
And when that happens, lots of bad things can happen, unfortunately. I know somebody who started to experience schizophrenia kind of things, and
Right.
just because they just didn't know what they were doing. So I was really happy to have learned how to make sure that I'm okay energetically, so nothing can hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, once I learned that, because I learned that by actually helping other people and training other people in transformation skills. And so I had to learn how to be safe, because I didn't want to show somebody something and then wonder, well, was that safe to do or not? I had to know that it was safe. So I did some studying, I did some downloading, I did some all sorts of things to get the information, and started to realize, yes, I can play with this energy now because I know how to be completely safe and not do the wrong thing.
Yep.
And so when I did that, when I was playing with it, I learned a whole lot, because at night I was getting lots of ghosts were coming to see me. That was kind of interesting, because although I wasn't really that scared when I saw the ghosts, um, but they weren't like right next to me. So had they been right next to me, there may have been a different situation whether I'd been scared or not.
Yeah,
But
I would be.
they were like far enough from me that I knew that it was okay, and I
Yeah.
felt good. But there were lots of things. I think that that there's sort of like a test that you go through when it opens up.
Yep.
So a lot of things would jump at me. I would open my eyes in the middle of the night, and then things would jump at me, and then I stopped jumping when that
Mm.
happens. I like expect it. It's like, oh, I'm gonna open my eyes and it's gonna jump at me. And so I think that's part of the I think that's it's sort of like training the Jedi Master, right?
Totally. Yes.
So I was learning how not to be startled by things that are unusual to most people, and bring them into my experience as normal, because that's my experience now. I was seeing. I've seen all different kinds of things. I've seen the quantum field and all of the tendrils of energy connecting. I've seen the beings, ghosts and entities that try to keep the entities away. And I actually have processes to eliminate entities so that they don't, like, I know that I don't have entities in my house. I
Mm-hmm.
know that I'm completely safe from them. They can't come into my house either. And I do check on that just to make sure that the shield and barriers that I've put up aren't broken, because eventually they could do that. But I have the skills to do it. So I know that I'm cool, because empaths are very susceptible to entities.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I was a kid, and entities were attached to me all the time. I mean, that was just normal. When I lost the entities, I also lost much of my anxiety, because I had a lot of anxiety issues, as you can imagine, from all of this empathic stuff happening.
Yes.
I had a huge anxiety issue. I mean, most people would say that it would be um, at a level of people would most people would take medication at the level
Mm-hmm.
of anxiety that I had.
Yeah.
I decided not to do that, because I didn't think that I wasn't sure what exactly I was dealing with, but I knew that I had to deal with it myself
Mm-hmm.
and not suppress it, because I knew that there was something at the end of this, whether it was to learn how to deal with it or whether it was to release the entities, which is what I did. I did kind of both,
Mm-hmm.
and to release all this stuff. And then when I did that, my life started to change in really dramatic ways that were wonderful. I didn't have the anxiety, and yet I could see all this kinds of things. I saw spaceships literally flying into my bedroom. That was an interesting thing, because I didn't think that was possible, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that I mean, obviously, it doesn't seem normal for a spaceship to fly into your room, but it was lit with like neon lights, it seemed.
Whoa.
And one was purple, one was orange, and they came at different times.
Mm-hmm.
When they would come in, it came in through the window, although the window was closed. I guess there's no barriers for whatever this kind of energy is. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at this thing flying across the room, and I'm like, my eyes are open. I literally can see. I know that I'm not sleeping. I know that this is an energy that's literally in my room. And I thought this is kind of cool.
What what
And
what did they have for you, or what did they want from you, or they just
that was,
visiting?
I wish that I could have gotten more information than just the seeing. It was like I was in awe of it.
Mm.
Beautiful. It was so amazing to see this. I mean, it was so brightly lit. flying through my window.
Amazing.
Um, it was amazing. And I thought, well, I want to learn more maybe I can help, or maybe I can understand, so I did some dowsing later to figure out what it was. But, it's sort of like alien energy, but it was a spiritual alien energy.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was spiritual alien energy actually, but it was interesting that I was seeing that. So lots of neat things that I was able to see. And I wrote a little diary every night, because I would see things all the time. Now I have the ability to turn it off, and I do turn it off at night because I do like to get some sleep. As an empath, sleeping in general is not the easiest for us,
Mm-hmm.
but if I turn off the spirit world at night, it's so much easier.
Yeah, it's like you have to say, at certain times, hey, I need to actually be having a human experience now. So I need you all to kind of back off for a little while so I can do that.
Absolutely. So there are times or segments of time if I feel I can do this at night, and because I see a lot more at night than I do during the day. So if I want to have that experience, I do, and if I don't, I turn it off. And it's very easy. I turn it off, and it works. And I enjoy that because I can sleep all night, and I wake up in the morning. It's all good. So I love that. I love having the control of having it be what I want, because I think that's the way that we should live our lives. We should have our lives be where we're in control of what we choose to experience, rather than being victim of what's happening.
Yeah, and I love that you're now able and equipped to teach that to others.
Yeah.
There's many people in my community who would be, who are very interested in that. And I also want to touch on, so you've navigated some things in life that a lot of other people navigate, health issues and things, and coming out of that. But the way that you navigated it is different than most people have the ability to do. And now you're able to help others with the knowledge that you obtained in that time. So I was hoping you could talk a little bit about that experience, and then how now you leverage what you learned to help others.
Oh, absolutely. It's really been an amazing experience, to be honest with you. The experience that I went through was much like an energetic intuition that came to me through working with other clients. So actually, I went to a hypnosis center near me in Fairfax, Virginia, many, many, many years ago. We're talking about like 20 years ago now or more. And when I went to the hypnosis center, I was reaching out for help because I was feeling anxious, and I was getting worse, and I needed something that was going to kind of snap me out of this. And as I thought at the time, I need something to fix me because this is not working.
Mm.
And, today I don't look at fixing at all in any way, but at that time, that's where I was. And so I was like, fix me, fix me. So I went to the hypnosis center, and they took me through some processes and some things in hypnosis. And in that one session that I had with them, I knew immediately that they weren't going to be able to help me because I already knew more than they knew.
Oh,
They were okay at taking me through the processes. I mean, just okay, but not as well as I was able to do even. So I said to them, this isn't going to work for me, and I thank you for trying, but it seems like you could use some help here. And she looked at me and she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, it looks like you can use a little bit of organizing, because the place was kind of a mess. I didn't say that, but it was literally kind of a mess. And I said, I could probably help you with things, because I'm a life coach, a business coach, I do transformation and stuff. I could probably help you. And she already had a business with customers and stuff, and she was struggling. And she wanted someone to do the sessions because she had to do them all.
oh, wow.
Yeah. So I eventually became manager of this location, and she rarely came in. It's like, well, we switched gears. So I did them all. And when I was doing them all, doing all the transformation, at first I just was helping people as they came in. Actually, the first time it happened, she didn't have me work with clients right away. She had me do other things for her, and then she got stuck.
Mm.
She said, Joshua, I have two clients here at the same time. They were both scheduled accidentally for the same time. Can you take one of them? And I said, oh, no problem. Sure, I'll take one of them. Which one do you want me to take? And she said, well, I'm going to take the one that I rescheduled for the third time.
Oh,
because she's going to be
good
really
call.
pissed if I don't take her. So can you take the other one who's thinking she's working with me, but I'm just going to try to smooth it over with her. And so I said, great. So she smoothed it over with her. I do not think this lady was happy because she was expecting to have had a session with this lady, not me. And so it's sort of like bait and switch, right? You kind of feel that kind of yucky feeling of what's going on. So basically, when that happened, I sat with her and said, listen, my name is Joshua Bloom, and I'm really excited to work with you. I know exactly where I'm going to go, but I would like to know more about what you're dealing with this anxiety, because she was dealing with anxiety. And I knew a lot about anxiety because I was already really freaking anxious. So I'm like, yeah, tell me about this. Because I'm like, I totally get it.
Yeah.
And so she's telling me about her anxiety, and I'm feeling a little anxious because I wasn't prepared for this session either. But I'm kind of excited about it because I feel like this lady and I are kindred spirits. I just felt really good. So I started to work with her, and I started to help her shift this anxiety. And in one session, we shifted the anxiety, and it went. And so I said, how are you feeling? And at that point, she didn't answer me. And she said, I'd like to speak to the lady who runs the place. And I thought, well, did I do something wrong? Because, why do you want to speak to her? I thought I just did a great job with you, and now I'm in trouble. So I said, okay, what am I going to say? Sure. So she goes and she goes up to the lady, because they were done with their session. So she was out in the lobby, and she says, you need to keep him. He's amazing. His anxiety is completely gone, and I have not felt this way in months, and this is awesome. So she didn't need any more sessions after that. She was like, good. So
and did you guide yourself through that through your inner knowing, with a side of like, this space, the anxiety space, but how did you get a download? How did that all come about?
Well, I went to Canada a long time ago, and I learned a little bit about quantum healing. And I didn't learn a whole lot. I learned some basics. And then I learned about Dr. Bruce Lipton. And I learned about the science of why this quantum thing should work. So that was my first go at utilizing the energy for helping somebody with anxiety. And it worked. And I was just as amazed as she was. It was kind of cool that we engaged together. I was able to guide her. And, I made it seem like hypnosis because we were in a hypnosis center. So I made it seem like that, but it wasn't hypnosis because I wasn't caring about the language patterns I was using. I was really encouraging her to move the energy at the cellular structure of her body to create the change. And she did that. And it worked beautifully. So it was not my intuition guided me as to where to go in the moment, which it does every time. So I just trust the energy, because the energy leads, and I just follow the energy to know where to go, because I'm not sure where to go until I'm guided by the intuition that lets me know. Now, I also, now that I've done this for 21 years, I have lots of tools now that I've created by working with so many people, because I worked at this hypnosis center over and over and over and over again, worked with like 3 to 4 people a day. And I was getting testimonials like crazy. Other hypnotists in the center were like, what is he doing? I don't understand why he's getting all these testimonials. I mean, they would get one, once a month or twice a month, maybe. I was getting them sometimes daily, indefinitely, weekly. And so they were like, what is he doing? And, I'm acting as if I'm doing hypnosis because, that's what we're in a hypnosis center, right? So,
right.
So I just act as if we're doing hypnosis. I just do it a little differently with a slightly different intention to create a larger shift. So people were coming in with migraine headaches, fibromyalgia, Crohn's disease, all sorts of things. And I was helping them shift it so that they no longer experience the symptoms. I have to say it like that because I can't say I cured them because I didn't. They did the work. And so just from a legal point of view, they no longer have any symptoms of what they were experiencing. And so the very next client that came in that I worked with, her name was Casey Craig, and she had fibromyalgia. I was so new, I didn't even know what that was. I was kind of embarrassed to say, what is that? Because I thought she was actually speaking a different language. I didn't know what she was saying. What do you say? And so she explained she had pain in her legs and she couldn't sleep and she had all sorts of issues where she'd be in bed all day. It was a very difficult, painful thing that she's had for 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I thought when I was going to work with her that I was going to work with her on weight loss. And I kind of felt, wow, I haven't really studied up on weight loss, on how to do it. They gave me some things at the Hypnosis Center to help people with weight loss, but I didn't really go through it yet. So I got too busy with clients. So I was saying, oh, that was good that you want to work on this fibromyalgia thing because I have no idea how to deal with the weight loss thing. So that's awesome. I kind of felt relieved.
Wow, that fibromyalgia was more comfortable to you than the weight loss because
she couldn't expect much. She just told me it was an incurable syndrome.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? She couldn't have expected that that she would have had a really big shift in it that day. So if something happened or not, I didn't feel like she was going to be mad or not mad. It was just going to be fine. But in 4 minutes of working with her, she told me her fibromyalgia left her body. Well, at that point, now remember, I'm new at this. This is like my second time or third time really working with a real client, and someone saying to me, it's gone. And I'm like, what's gone? Like, what are you saying? And she's saying fibromyalgia is gone. In my mind, I'm saying, you just told me this is incurable. What are you talking about? So in my mind, I'm freaking out because I'm not sure who's not sane here. It also could be me. I don't know. I wasn't really sure what was going on. I was kind of confused, but she said that she didn't have any experience of the fibromyalgia. And she also came dragging her foot behind. I mean, literally dragging her foot. Mm-hmm. So when she first came in, I was kind of concerned because I'm like, wow, that lady does not look well at all. Mm-hmm. But when she walked out one foot after the other and didn't drag her foot behind. And that was evidence that I didn't expect to see either.
Wow. So 16 years and 4 minutes.
4 minutes and it transformed. And I have goosebumps all over my arms right now just telling you about it because it was really an odd situation because who does that? Who sees this normally? We don't see this normally. No. And even though I thought that was possible, until it happens to you, until you actually see it literally right in front of your face, happen to you that somebody could transform so dramatically, it's hard to even the mind, it can't grasp that because it's like, that's not how it works. You can't have something and then not have something.
Right.
Because in our society, that's not okay. In our medical model, our therapy model, it takes months, years, years for the most part to change these kinds of things, if at all.
Yeah.
One lady I worked with, her name was Beth Amon, and she actually had multiple things: migraine headache. She had eczema. She didn't want to, hug me. I'm a very huggy person, so I went to give her a hug, and she put her hand out like this.
Love you.
Yeah, she just put her hand out in front, and I'm like, okay, I won't ask again. I get it. You don't want a hug. So by the third session, she gave me a hug. I mean, Liv just gave me a hug, and I'm like, who's this lady?
That's amazing.
And then she got rid of the eczema in the next session, and I was like, that was another time that I thought, isn't that crazy? She's got all this eczema all over her body, and now it's just gone. She went to the doctor. And the doctor didn't believe her. So he said, show me. So she did. And then he just walked out. Because he didn't say anything. He just walked out of the room. He didn't say a word. He just walked out.
Well, totally bucked his belief on how all of this works, right?
But it does that for all of us, doesn't it? It's like, how is that possible? So these crazy, wonderful things were happening for me and in my experience, because I realized how to access the quantum field. And when you go into the quantum field, the rules change, right? So the rules in our society are change happens slow. You have to work hard to get change, all this stuff. That all changes when you work in the quantum field, and you get a very different result, as I was finding out.
So I'm personally just starting to work with this a little bit now for myself, and I'm a baby at it. But I would love it if you would give a little bit of insight as to what are some of those differences with the quantum field. What's different there than in this space that we're in every day?
Well, the difference in the quantum field is that when we think about the quantum field, there are different things that are possible to happen that are impossible to happen. So first of all, Dr. Bruce Lipton says either you're in growth or protection. Okay, if you're in growth, healing is possible, and if you're in protection, healing is not possible. So going into the quantum field puts you into the growth place. So you can consider growth being in your power, and being in the other place being victim, right? So if you're in protection, you're in the victim mode. And if you're in your power, you have a totally different experience. So the very first thing in quantum energy transformation, we get you into growth, so that we know that transformation is possible, because Dr. Lipton has tested this. He knows if you're in protection, you won't heal. And I'm like, no wonder I didn't heal for like 10 years, because I was always in protection. I was always in fight or flight. I was never out of that place. And so there was no changing for me. So once I realized I too had to go into this place of growth, then healing was possible. So I started to use the science. I started to understand, well, Dr. Lipton says you have to be in growth. How do you do that? Well, I remember, reading all these kinds of, not really reading a lot of books, because I didn't like to read books, but Eckhart Tolle was one of the books I read, called The Power of Now. And I read that entire book, and it says it was really important for you to be present. I thought, that is awesome. And I love the book, but it didn't tell me how to be present.
Right.
So it said it was really good to do it, but I didn't know how to do it. And I was really frustrated.
I have that perspective about that book too. And what's funny is I picked it up this week and I thought, is there anything that like I need to revisit here? No, because I don't know what this is telling me.
I thought I read it wrong. I really did. But I realize now that, most things that are written aren't about the how, they're about the what. And then, you pay them more money to learn about the how, right? So I get that now. But what I realize is that being present is actually about being in your body. And there's actually a physical and energetic aspect to that. So when you're in your body, what it really truly means is that your higher self is actually inside the vessel, which is you. And so I thought that was interesting, because what ends up happening is when you're not present, you're at a low energy frequency, and your higher self says, listen, I'm not into that. I'm leaving. And it pops out of you. Literally, your higher self leaves your body. Now it's still connected to you because it has a cord, right? So it has this cord. It's not leaving you, but it's certainly not supporting you because it's up there. And so as long as we're in our head, and as long as we are out of body, so to speak, right, we are not present. So I was like that for 10 years with anxiety. I was never present. I would do the meditations and stuff, and I still wouldn't be present. I was doing everything I could, but I wasn't getting that higher self that's up here down into my body to be able to connect and be in the moment. So when Eckhart Tolle was talking about being in the moment, I didn't have a sense of that. I didn't understand what that felt like. I understood it was possible. I got an intellectual thing about it, but didn't really understand what it was like until I literally brought my higher self down into my body. And then I kept my attention at the base of my spine, which is the tailbone. When I did that, for the first time, I realized that was what being present was, that it was being fully connected to yourself, to others, to spirituality. And then once you're connected from that perspective and you go into the quantum field, now the quantum is all about the study of possibility. So when I work with clients, I'm not trying to fix their issue or fix their problem because they're not broken. Actually, if I lived their life and did exactly what they did, I'd have the same issues they did. It's actually like clockwork. It's perfect. If I would have done what they did, I could reproduce exactly what they did, exactly what they're feeling, exactly what they're experiencing, the illnesses that they have. I could have them all just like they do if I lived exactly like this. So they're not broken. It's working exactly what it's supposed to be. So from that perspective, I realized, wow, what would be possible if we could consider a new possibility versus try to fix it. So a new possibility could be, well, fibromyalgia could be gone. But what's better than that? Wow, if fibromyalgia could be gone for this client, what would it be if this person was just completely well and happy and excited? I mean, all this kind of great stuff. And my energy frequency would raise. So then my intention is at a very high energy frequency with the possibilities in the quantum field that then invites the client to go into that same place with me. And now we're both in the place feeding off of each other, right? Sort of like on you ever see The Voice where they sing against each other and they lift each other higher and higher and higher. And they're both really much better than they were before. Yeah, that's kind of what we do in healing too. And so when we're healing in that place where our energies are just syncing and working together, and then all of a sudden they're at this high place that they've never been before in their life, that people spend 3 to 5 years to get that way in meditation. I mean, monks try to get there in it takes them years and years and years to get there. I can get my clients to get into that place in a session. I mean, that's how fast we can do this. And so when we go there, it is literally an uplifting and transformational experience where that person who came in is no longer the same person who leaves.
That's amazing. That's wow. You know, the thing that this blows my mind. The thing that blows my mind about
it blows my mind too, to be honest.
About the quantum field is that all possibilities exist at one time, which is, of course, we're only taught, right, that there is this thing that we are currently in and seeing in our 3D world. But in the 4D, 5D, 6D world, you can pull in any possibility that exists out there at any time if you know how to do it and certain things are in place
and get into alignment with it. So getting into place means you need to be in alignment with that new possibility in order for you to take it on. If you're not in alignment with that possibility, then you can't reach it. So it's kind of like, I'll give you an easier example. If you have negative thoughts, the reason that you have negative thoughts is because your energy frequency is at the level where the negative thoughts exist. Now, if you lift your energy frequency higher than the negative thoughts exist, you'll stop experiencing negative thoughts. It's really that easy. So you just raise your energy frequency, gone with the negative thoughts. The same thing happens with the possibility that you're going to grab. So the possibilities are available to you based on what your energy frequency is at the moment and how connected you are in that moment too. So you can't just go up to spirit or up to whatever you want to call it, God or that kind of thing, without yourself, without your connection, which is what we do when we go into meditation many times. And we since we lose that connection, we don't get the big changes. I mean, meditation isn't one of those things that people say comes with instant transformation. Yoga doesn't either. But I can make something look exactly like meditation and have that person actually align in that way and actually shift and become a totally different experience of them, where they are in their power and they're working at a much higher and happier and more amazing experience than they were before. And that's because we're engaging it differently, and we're working not on the trance aspect, which is meditation is basically understanding if you get into the trance of it all, then that trance is transformational.
Mhm.
But the trance is not as transformational as when energy moves through the cells of your body and changes what we call the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind, or they call it the subconscious mind. I like to call it the unconscious mind, just as semantics. But that just sounds, people are too used to hearing the subconscious mind, so I say the unconscious mind. But the unconscious mind is the body. So when you move energy through the unconscious mind, that is the body, you get a very different experience than when you just simply go into trance or hypnosis. It's not at all the same um, level of energy, so to speak.
Wow. I want to share a really silly example of how one way that I'm building my own kind of belief muscle and trust muscle around this. So recently I went away for a weekend. I got to my hotel. The room I rented was not the most nurturing for the time and space that I wanted to have there. And I decided to play a little game. So I spent some time getting into in my head, what would the ideal space for my, healing weekend be? What would that look like? What would it feel like? What would it have in it? What would the view be? And I kind of built that picture. And then I thought, well, I'm going to go to the front desk and I'm going to say, I want a room like this and see what happens. And the hotel was totally booked. And I went to the front desk and I said, listen, I want to upgrade to this. This is the kind of thing I want. And he said, oh, I think we're sold out. Let me look. Looked. Said, that's really weird. I thought that room was rented, but this must be for you. And I thought, yeah, that is for me. And so I think, it's really fun. Also, if you can, in the beginning stages, at least for me, kind of look at it as a bit of a game in a way. And this is, I wasn't healing anything. This was just a fun thing I was doing, but it put me in the space to vibrate at a higher frequency in the belief of this being possible.
Yeah, so I disagree with you when you say you weren't healing anything, because I believe all transformation starts with manifestation. We manifest healing or transformation. We manifest things in our life. We manifest parking spaces. We manifest hotel rooms. We manifest goodness. We manifest meeting the right person who's going to help us along the way. We manifest all of these things in our life. And so if it's all manifestation anyway, then everything you do that you play that game with, because I love playing the game also, life is so much fun when you play with it rather than be serious about it.
Yeah.
I had a client once who I said, we're going to play with this and it's going to be great. And she said, we're not going to play with this. The most serious face. This is a serious issue. And I was like, oh, I know I'm in for something here. This lady is very forward with me. And I looked her in the eye and I said, that's what we got to work on. I said, I get that the issue that you're dealing with is serious. And yes, we need to seriously make a change. But if you don't enjoy yourself while you're working with me, if we're not engaging in a way that's fun for you, your energy frequency is not going to change. And you're going to be the same when you leave. And it's just going to be that way. So I said, are you willing to play a little bit, even if it's uncomfortable for you to play? Because we've got to get to a point where you're no longer looking at everything. Because if you're looking at her illness as serious, and of course it was, but everything else you looked at was also serious. Yeah. So how about adding some play in your life? So we did, and she actually made transformation happen for herself. And I said, see, playing can be useful.
Oh, I love that. I'm so glad that you're validating that right now.
It should be a game. Everything should be a game. Why not?
Oh, I love it. Well, okay, so we could talk for hours and hours, and we definitely should at some point. But for now, I would love for you to tell people where to find you. I know that you have a book. And,
yes.
And there are several ways to work with you, which I'm sure everyone will be intrigued about. So go ahead and tell us how we do that.
Well, you can go to quantumhealingcenter.com, which is my website. And you could also, do you want me to give my free gift?
Oh, yes, please, please.
Yeah, so I have a really good free gift. Whether you're an empath or not sure, we all get overwhelmed. and especially overloaded if you're an empath. So if you're getting overloaded, more than likely you're an empath. So that might be a clue. So if you want to engage that overwhelm and have it just melt away so that you can feel so good and not have to worry about all this overwhelm and overload, whether it's work that's overloading you or overwhelming you, or whether it's family because of all the, we're dealing with a lot more family these days because of COVID, right? So then or whatever it is, whatever the reason is, we can release it. So I've made this audio called Let Go of Overwhelm, and it allows you to release and transform all of that extra stuff we carry along with us. So you'll feel lighter and happier and more open and more playful at the end of this experience. So you go to overwhelmbegone.com/Kristen.
Amazing. And I'm going to put that in the show notes and in a couple other places too. My
Great.
website and a few other places so people can find it. And thank you so much for doing that. I got full body chills when you were describing it. So much needed tool, especially right now. And
Overwhelm right now is crazy, isn't it? We have so much to deal with, more than we had to before. And now there's a tool here, and then I'm giving it out to you for free so that you can engage it.
I love it. And then your book is not released yet?
It is. It's The Ultimate Answer is Inside. Oh, and Dr. Bruce Lipton did the forward, by the way. Woo! That's like singing. That's like seeing Pegasus.
Yes. Love it.
Although not for an empath necessarily.
The ultimate answer is inside. Everybody, go look for that.
Yes. It is on Amazon right now, and soon you'll be able to get the physical book. Right now, it's just on Amazon as a ebook, but it will be soon available as a physical book. If a lot of people like to hold it in their hand and stuff, we'll have that soon.
Yeah, I did. I signed up for that because I like a physical book. So that's great. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing just a few insights. The world of all things quantum and healing is massive, and you have so much to give and share. And so encouraging everybody to go explore more.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure connecting with you and your audience, and really just the energy of our connecting today has really lifted me up. So thank you so much.
Me too. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye for now.